me take a time out to say a special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9. Welcome to The Point. It's Tuesday. It's the 16th day of June, 2026. So, started off a bit of a rainy morning. There are probably areas who are maybe still having those showers. On my way to work, it's kind of sort of subsided just a wee bit. But the roads are wet. So, especially you drivers over here, I beg of you to take it easy as you drive along. Because you know your friction is reduced a whole lot when you know the roads are wet. So I beg of you to please drive along. Stay within the speed limits. You know, that due care and attention that I always speak of, please do so as you drive along. Look out for, you know, other road users, especially those folks who may be walking along on the roads this morning. You know, there are probably little puddles of water from time to time, and you don't want to splash on someone who's probably dressed for work, and they have to walk to work. Probably their workplaces within walking distance. You don't want that happening. So I beg of you to drive along. It's Opposition Tuesday on today's edition of To The Point here on Classic Radio and GBN TV. Of course, my guest on the program today will certainly be the, of course, political leader of the new National Party, the Honorable Emmalin Pierre. We also, of course, she's also the leader of the opposition. She'll be, I guess, on today's edition. She's still waiting for her to make that bit of a connection for me. She's coming on this morning via our Zoom platform, and as soon as she taps in, we'll certainly get into the conversation this morning. Classic Radio 105.5 GBN TV. To The Point. Classic Radio GBN TV. To The Point. Let me see if that connection is up and running. Honorable Pierre, good morning. If you're there, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
To all of your listeners, not sure if we're fully connected yet.
Yes, we up and running. Actually, we on air, and so I will just hope for. I think we got it there. I hope our control room person has gotten you connected there properly right now. All right, so we up and running. We suddenly up and running. All right. Hello, Pierre, once again. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, GT.
All right. I sort of lost your video there just a wee bit. I'm not sure if there's an issue on your end. I don't think it's on my side, but I sort of lost that video connection there with you. Yes, you're back. Yes, you're back. Much better. Hope you could readjust just a wee bit. Sort of have that close contact with you all the way up to the screen. All right. Much better. Thank you so much. That's it. Perfect shot there. All right. So how are you, Honorable Pierre? How are you this morning? Let's get the lighter side of things going. How are you this morning?
So my standard response would be, I am blessed. A little bit under the weather, you might notice it in my voice, but not bad enough that I have to postpone the program this morning. So I am hoping that you and your listeners are able to hear me clearly. It's really a pleasure to be on this morning.
And as usual, it's a pleasure to have you on today's edition of To The Point. I want to start off the conversation this morning by saying congratulations, of course, on you being re-elected as a political leader of the new National Party. How does it feel to be re-elected in the recent convention?
Well, put it this way, my focus is always service. And so this is an opportunity for me to continue to serve in this position. And of course, quite humbled, honored as well to serve the delegates and members of the party in this position. And I look forward, of course, to serving Grenada again in this particular role of Prime Minister of Grenada, Carrick Wmpiti Martinique, when the new National Party returns to office.
All right. I want to go this direction. You know, from time to time, you of course, we hear the conversation in terms of, once again, in terms of you being recently unopposed as political leader of the National Party, with Dr. Mitchell stepping down as chairman. How does it feel to of course, to formally, of course, hem that new era, if I could say it in that particular way? And what is your immediate strategy for unity in terms of the party, its traditional base, and your new generation vision, if I could say it in that particular way?
Okay, so quite a lot in a mouthful there. But three themes stood out to me: Dr. Mitchell, unity, and the young team going forward. So let me start right there. Now, the fact that Dr. Mitchell's name comes up so regularly in conversations nationally, not just on this program, really speak to the impact that he has had over his many years of service in this country. And I think as a party, we are quite honored. We are very fortunate to still have Dr. Mitchell around in the role of an advisor for the party and, of course, in the work that we do. Any political organization in any part of the world would be happy to have someone like him who have had so many years of experience and, of course, has been there, done it all. Who would not want to tap into that kind of experience and knowledge? So as an organization, we are extremely fortunate. He's the only founding father that is still around. And of course, every person who understands the importance of legacy, who understands the importance of continuity, who understands the importance of sustainability, would understand that you need to ensure that you have persons like Dr. Mitchell, Gregory Bowen, Clarice Modest Cohen, still playing a role and helping in every way that they can. As it relates to the unity of the party, definitely, I think that's one of the things the NNP has to be credited for, historically so, not just now. We've always been known to be a united party. We've always been known to hold things together, especially in crisis. And I'm speaking about national crisis. As a result of that, we have earned the title of a united party, and that is what we remain. And I don't think sufficient credit has been given. The transition process that we've just had, moving away from a political leader that served the party over 40 years, served Grenada over 23 years, and you have himself and others who would have served at that level of the party, having relinquishing their role, and still being able to keep the party together. Very many organizations trying to do something like this, they would fall apart. And so I credit a lot of that to the unity of the party and the strength of the party as it relates to the combination of those who have served, that are knowledgeable, that understands the values of the party, and those who are now coming in and joining to continue to build the party. And of course, the third part of your question has to do with the new persons who are coming in. Well, of course, I'm happy that you recognize it, because I recall some quarters making statements that the NNP has not been able to attract new people. Well, I'm sure you have not heard that in a long time, except to recognize the strength of the party in being able to attract new people and to continue to grow. And we are extremely happy for all the new persons who have come on board and the new people who continue to come on board, to say that we understand that the best organization to lead this country still remains the New National Party. In the last election, people wanted a change. They wanted to try something different. And I'm sure you would agree with me. The noise out there is that the change that we got is not the change that we expected. And as a party, we are humble enough to continue to build, continue to work, continue to strengthen the party to be able to serve the people of this country even better when re-elected into office. So all in all, JT, I would say this. The New National Party remains strong, solid. We are growing. We are strengthening the organization. We are doing a few things differently. And I believe we have to ensure that we are keeping it with the times and not losing our legacy in the process, not losing our history and our values in the process. The ideologies of the party remain intact as we continue to build on the legacy that we've enjoyed over the years.
Great. Political pundits has frequently, speculated an internal tension, regarding the party caretakers and so forth, and the structural transitions. How do you respond to critics who wonder if the transition, of course, of the legacy of Dr. Mitchell is truly seamless? If you want to respond to that for me, Carl. Of course, Honorable Pierre.
Well, I would just respond out of respect for you to say this. I don't pay much attention, quite honestly, to those kind of comments out there because we understand where it's coming, why it's coming. And so one of the things I try to do is to stay very focused. And that has been very instrumental in a lot of what we've been able to achieve over the year. If I get distracted by what the pundits say and what this one say and that one say, quite obviously we might not even be having this conversation this morning. And let me bring your attention back to what they said some probably 2-3 years ago. Keith Mitchell would never step down as leader of the New National Party. He would die in the position. That's what they said. Then when he did step down as leader and assume the role of chairman, and he said, credit to him, that he was going to hold that position for 1 year to provide guidance and a smooth transition, commendation to Dr. Mitchell for his wisdom in that regard. So he assumed the role of chairman, and they said, well, he's never going to give up the role of chairman because that's his way of staying at the head of the party, staying at the leadership level of the party. And well, of course, he recently gave up the role of chairman, and I have not heard anything. But after that, it was said, the same pundits that you're talking about, that he will not give up the role of opposition leader. He would never give up that role. And then he gave up that role. So if you follow them, GT, you're just going to be led down a precipice, quite honestly. And it's the reason I don't listen very much to those kind of statements out there. The work of the party is critical. Preparation for moving this country forward is really critical. And so my time and energy is consumed in exactly that. And I'm not distracted by all of the things that are said out there. Quite often, people who are paid to say things are saying things, and you've got to be careful, who you're listening to, what you're listening to, and as I said, just staying focused on the job to be done. That is the critical thing. We have a country to build. We have a country to move forward. We have a country to save, I believe. And that is where my energy and the energy of the party is going to be focused.
All right, great. With recent data modeling, if I say this away, just with data modeling per se, the projection is a favorable outcome for the NMP, and there's rumors circulating also that, the next general election could happen as early as the latter half of 2026 or early in 2027. Is the new National Party, the new executive team, fully structured and is ready for a national campaign?
Of course. GT, that is why I said to you, we remain focused. So to date, we are the only political party that has launched 15 candidates. We are probably the only political party doing the level of consistent work that we are doing, not just in terms of informing the population on what is happening in this country, not just advocating for the people of this country, but I'm talking about serious internal work as it relates to policies, as it relates to preparing our manifesto, as it relates to all of those things that are necessary for getting into office and not just getting there, but for governance, right? So I'm convinced that the work we are putting in, no organization can say they're absolutely, totally ready for anything. But at the end of the day, what we are doing and where we are right now, I feel quite satisfied with the work that we have done, and we are never going to get complacent. We are going to continue to work. We are going to continue to push hard. And most importantly, I want to stress this. For us, it is critical to be the voice for the people of this country. And I think we've continued consistently to do that, and we are not going to stop. In spite of the bullying, in spite of the negative attacks, in spite of all that is out there, I want to make this point that we are at a point in our country, very sadly so, where people are afraid to express themselves. People are afraid to express their opinion. And in many instances, things that people did comfortably 4 years ago, they are afraid to do it right now. And so those who are bold and brave, I believe, have to stand up for those who don't feel comfortable speaking for themselves, expressing their own views, and of course, we remain a solid representative of the people of this country.
What's different approach would you say this time around compared to the last cycle? What's that different approach you were going by?
Well, if you look at the last election campaign, let me put this in my own opinion. Although we were the government in office at the time and we had the bell in our hand, I don't think we were as ready as we should have been ready for the election. And you know what I strongly believe? Any government calling an election after a COVID period, put it that way, would have been under significant pressure in terms of readiness. So if you look at the members of the team, most of us were so consumed in the work of government. Most of us were so consumed in getting the country back on track. And even in my case, let us use education. You know how this pandemic would have affected the education system. And so preparing for an election doesn't take 2 weeks or a month or not even a year, right? So a lot of the time that should have been put into the preparation for an election, I think we were extremely focused in the work of the people, right? The work that we had to do for Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And we don't regret this. We don't regret this. So I believe that's one of the factors. The pandemic and the work that happened post that pandemic, quite obviously, we were quite consumed in a lot of the recovery and what was happening, rebuilding post this pandemic. Additionally, I want to state a different factor. So let me just go back to conclude on the first factor. Well, of course, we're in opposition now, so we don't have that challenge. Right? The second factor, which is that of, I would say, social media has played a very integral role in campaigns, not just in Grenada, throughout the world in recent times. And as a party, we have to be honest to say that we did not accept that election. And so our social media campaign was one that was extremely weak because I believe the opposition at the time understood that far better than we did. And of course, maybe our focus was elsewhere at the time. Now, if you look at what has happened, you ask what is different. I'm quite sure you would recognize a difference in our social media platforms and how we are responding to the importance of social media in communicating to the electorates. So that is two. We cannot rule out the fact Dr. Mitchell served for 23 years. He has led this country for 23 years as Prime Minister. And of course, as we always say, 40 years of experience as political leader of the party. And we know how the human being can be sometimes. Not that they're dissatisfied with your work, your performance in many cases, but sometimes people just want to change. And that's human beings, right? And we heard it in the campaign. You know, Dr. Mitchell was there for so long, et cetera, undervaluing the work and the contribution. As opposed, and I remember making the point at one time, we have to be so careful when we make important decisions. So when we speak of change, it must not just be about, like if we change in our clothes, to go to a function. Changing government is such an important factor. It's such an important factor in the development of a country that you have to ensure that when you're doing that, you are doing it with all the possible consideration that you can give to what is likely to happen. So, of course, I believe that was one of the factors. We now have younger leadership of the party, and we are blessed to have stalwarts who are there to mentor, to advise, to provide support. And of course, as we always say, election is really the will of the people. At the end of the day, the people decide what they want at any given time. But this is the final factor I would point to, promises. When you look at the NNP campaign in the last election, And this is the one of all that I've stated so far, one of the four that is not going to change for us. So the first three, you've noticed I've made mention of what we identified that was and what has happened, what is going to be. In this particular instance, I want to point to the one thing that will not change about the NNP as it relates to what we did last time and what we plan to do this time around. When you look at the promises of the NNP, these are hard, solid promises that people can count on, people can depend on. People can know that the team is conscious of the promise and is ready to deliver on the promise. Compare that to what the NDC promised in the last election. For example, we're going to make every public officer permanent. Right? And of course, we heard a contrary statement after coming from the very said government. So we are not into promising our way into government. So we are still going to be that responsible group of people who would make promises that we know are practical and that are possible. And I want to emphasize this because we have a way sometimes that we can fall for things that sound good. And I think that was one of the things of the last campaign. I have persons who say to me that when they voted for a particular thing, let's use pension as an example. Some persons said they voted for pension, not even thinking that they were not eligible for pension. And so in this election, I'm trusting and hoping that Grenadians are going to be far more conscious of the why they are voting, that they are voting for a team that has experience, that has competence, and is ready to serve, not to be served, to serve. They are voting for a team that presents policies and programs. They present a manifesto, not because they just want to get votes, but something that they themselves are convinced about and are ready to implement. And so if you ask me, the first three factors, I believe, would have been critical ones in the last election. And of course, as I said, it all boils down finally to what is it that the electorates are prepared to vote for. And I want to caution, as I said, on the fourth factor, that we ought to vote for things that are realistic, things that we know are possible to implement. So if we take, for example, the 500 Grenadian-style houses per year, we are supposed to be now on 2,000 houses, right? The same project has delivered 17 units incomplete. And that is why I'm making the point that when political parties come forward, like I've heard one party said, we are going to provide every household with solar panels. I mean, like, for real. Let us be realistic when we make promises. And that is why for us as a party, what we are doing right now, we are revising, reviewing our policies from previous time in government. We are building a manifesto that we believe is for the people, that we believe is coming from the people. We've listened to the people. We've listened to their concerns. We've seen the issues, and we are now responding in the shape and form of manifesto and policies, but not unrealistic, to address their needs, but not being unrealistic, unfair, and dishonest in the process.
Honorable Pierre, we drew for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks, to the Point Classic Radio TV and TV. We'll be right back after the short break. Don't touch your dial.
Or renovating your home or business? Why not use clean, renewable energy? Install solar panels to power your home and office and see your energy costs go down and your savings go up. Using renewable solar-powered energy protects our environment, reduces our carbon footprint, and slows the devastating impact of climate change. Republic Bank can help to finance construction and renovations that make use of renewable energy. Visit any Republic Bank branch and ask about renewable energy financing options today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
The Ministry of Agriculture White Potato Production Initiative is an OECS sub-regional project aimed at reducing Grenada's reliance on imported white potatoes, which in 2025 had an imported value of over 4.5 million EC dollars. The White Potato Production Initiative is part of the Ministry of Agriculture's food security drive and is being undertaken with the simultaneous cultivation of other crops such as sweet potatoes, pineapples, coconuts, carrots, and other vegetables. Other OECS countries like Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are already at an advanced stage in white potato production, with Dominica completely cutting the import of white potatoes during the first quarter of 2026. Grenada is now preparing to advance production for better output in 2027. The Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, ensuring food and nutrition security for all.
At 5 p.m. on August 5th, 1944, the schooner Island Queen sailed out of the St. George's Harbor. On board were some of Grenada's brightest and best sons and daughters. What happened afterwards remains a mystery.
Where Island Queen gone?
Heritage Theatre Company presents Lucy's Straw Hat, a full-length drama written and directed by Chris DeRiggs, a moving story about a family caught up in the drama of this great mystery. Meet Mammy Sylvie, a woman with a secret too heavy to keep but too painful to reveal.
Asking for forgiveness for not telling you the truth.
Pa John, the war veteran.
Sometimes I sit here feeling so helpless, so crushed.
Lucy's Straw Hat at Grenada Trade Center on Saturday 13th and Sunday 14th June, and at the Luke Cinema on Saturday 20th and Sunday 21st June. Advance tickets $60, $75 at the door. Come join us.
Where Island Queen gone?
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers. It's to the point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. Of course, it's Opposition Tuesday. And my guest with me this morning is, of course, the Honorable Emmalin Pierre. She's the political leader of the New National Party and also the leader of the opposition. Honorable Pierre, welcome back. Welcome back to today's program. I want to shift the conversation slightly. You know, the economy, cost of living is a topical conversation we hear from time to time going on. If I could go along this particular direction. No, you previously described the government's 2026 budget as deeply troubling and disconnect from the daily realities on the ground. Now, tell me, what specific measures should the government have included, to bring that, the economic relief, that economic relief for struggling families?
GT, if you look around the region, you would recognize that most government are taking additional steps to bring relief to their people. And I always like to start from the point that we understand that there's a global situation that is affecting the cost of living in Grenada and the region. We understand that. When inflation rises in international countries where Grenada trades or Grenada imports from, obviously common sense would tell you that there's going to be a hike or rise in the price here locally, generally speaking. So we understand that there's no debate, absolutely no debate about this. What we have consistently said, though, is that a government that cares, understanding that this situation impacts families, impact Grenadians in a very serious way, and would want to do something, take some kind of action to bring relief as you're asking. So if we go back a little bit before we speak about now, when we had a global crisis and the cost of electricity went up, significantly so, the cost of fuel, it affected the cost of electricity in Grenada. So it was external and it impacted internal. The NNP government never one day referred to the global crisis as an excuse for why they cannot do something. What we did back then was to accept that our people were suffering from the increased cost of electricity and that it is a responsibility of the government to do something. So what did we do? One of the steps taken, we repurchased shares in Glen so we could have a measure of control. And what did we do subsequently? What did we do subsequently was to reduce the cost of electricity bills for Grenadians. So we reduced the non-fuel charge, we removed VAT on electricity, and immediately Grenadians saw a reduction in their electricity bills. So external does not mean that your hands are absolutely tied. What it means is that you have to become creative, you have to be more responsible, and you have to be more responsive, empathizing with the situation that people are facing. So we are saying, when you look back at the last budget, we are still very concerned that in that budget, there was nothing significant that demonstrated an understanding of the plight of the people. And so what we expected were measures, for example, reduction in the cost of electricity in a significant way. In a significant way. We expected things like an addition to the basket of goods that are protected as it relates to price control. As it relates to VAT, we expected that maybe additional items would be added. We expected that programs similar to what government would have done in the past, the stimulus packages, etc., because we are in a situation, except those who lead do not understand it, where people are literally struggling to put food on their table. It's not normal times. When we had the situation of the rise in gas price at the pump, again, what did we do? We capped the gas at $15, and government gave up the benefits that it was receiving as returns on the sale of gas. We gave that up. This administration has capped gas at $17, still very high. And what is happening is that they are not prepared to give up what the NNP gave up during that period. And let me make the point also that when it comes to revenue, this government has boasted about its revenue from the sale of Grenadian passport. It has boasted over $1 billion revenue. In addition to that, this administration received $118 million in CRIF payout. So we cannot speak about burial affecting the performance of the government as it relates to this matter. And on top of that, this administration boasted that it inherited a treasury with over $500 million in reserve. And so when you have a government that is spending recklessly, millions on food and drinks, millions on decoration, millions on a project that you launch and you don't even have the drawings, the designs yet, and it's just sitting there, wasted money. Look at Polaris. Do you know how much it would have cost for the beautiful pictures that is fencing this facility? The lighting on the carronage, almost $500,000. Do we know where they are today? So the reckless spending of the administration, if you ask me, if we cut that, we can do far more. Bring a supplementary where you can say, okay, this is a relief package that we are bringing for families, and we have decided to do this by reducing wastage, reducing travel, and taking steps to ensure that we are increasing on our savings so we can give back to the people. That is what you expect from a responsible government in a situation like this. And we've lost the opportunity on the budget, but guess what? there's always an opportunity to come back with a supplemental budget. And in that budget, you can introduce things that you believe are critical, urgent, and respond to immediate needs of the people. But the government has been stone deaf on this, not listening at all, not responding, very cold on this issue. And the only response we're getting is that it's an international crisis. The one thing that we know, you're telling us the one thing that we know. And so I'm appealing to this administration that there are people out there who genuinely need help. There are people whose roofs are still under tarpaulin. I saw one last week from Hurricane Beryl. How could that be when you had $118 million provided to support families, to support farmers and fishermen? There are farmers who, after the passage of Hurricane Beryl, were given assurance that they would receive that payout that some farmers receive. Some got 50%, some got 0%. And I'm saying to you with confidence that there are some people who were not into farming during Hurricane Beryl, and they receive support from the government. How do we explain? How do we explain those things? How do we explain those things, GT? When people out there are struggling to send children to school, struggling to put food on their table, electricity cut off, water cut off, because the cost of living just continues to rise. And we get one thing from the government consistently: it's an international crisis.
You know, you spoke of the cost of living, you spoke of the relief that government should implement. Tell me, cost of living, jobs, infrastructure, housing. Which of these is hitting, you would say, the Grenadian the hardest right now? What's your answer to that?
So as a responsible opposition, we don't just talk. And whenever we speak, we are speaking as a voice for the people. So guess what we do? We collect data from the people when we go to the communities. And I challenge anyone at all, to bring data that shows that in any part of Grenada, the most critical issue affecting people is not cost of living. So cost of living ranks number one. In almost every constituency in this country, healthcare will be the second concern of the average person. GT, this is serious, and it ties in to cost of living. Because guess what? If people have money, if the economy is bubbling, put it that way, then people would not complain, because guess what? They're going to go to private doctors. They're going to buy their own medication. But because of the situation, because of the economic situation, businesses complaining, very little sales because people don't have the cash, they don't have the monies. So because of that, people are forced to go to the government facilities. So you go to the government pharmacy, and medication that you are used to getting is no longer available. You go to the hospital, and they would say to you, if your family is not able to get this medication, well, there's nothing more that we can do. And healthcare is a serious concern, because you're talking about life. You're talking about people's lives when you speak about healthcare. And so this is an area that we are shocked at the government's response. Because guess what? The monies that we are spending on food and drinks, independence, gone, the 50th anniversary independence, sorry. You look at the spending, it went over $1 million, food and drinks. While we have medical centers without bandage, without basic medication. And that's the point we are making. We don't need Polaris to fix the current problem. The current problem requires additional medication that Polaris would not fix. The current problem requires additional human resource that Polaris would not fix. The current problem requires us to provide NHI, National Health Insurance, so that healthcare, proper healthcare, is more affordable to the average person. And we are saying all of this can be done without spending $600 million, $500 million. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you that we would see an obvious difference if we took that $23 million that government would have spent before the sod turning ceremony of Polaris. If we had taken that and put it into primary health care, I guarantee you that we would be having less complaints right now about healthcare in this country. The government's priority as it relates to healthcare is upside down. It is upside down right now. And the average person understands why it is upside down. It is upside down because government officials, ministers of government, associates of government sees Project Polaris as a means through which they can continue to enrich themselves, benefiting directly from the project. And so when your priority is yourself, so we are going to purchase government lands, but we are going to purchase right next door so that if this project comes off, we are right in the slips, ready to catch what is going to come from that project. When your focus is yourself, it becomes difficult to see the plight of the people. And so I would have loved to see that $22 million plus what would have been spent on the sod turning, plus what was spent to erect that billboard along the roadside, plus the cleaning and the grading that was done, that will have to be done again because the grass has grown back. If we had taken all these monies and put it into Princess Alice Hospital, into Granborough Medical Center, into wherever there's a medical facility around this country where there's no medication. I went to one clinic, and do you know, GT, that a basic thing as gloves, they did not have. A basic thing as gloves. Now, how do you explain not having gloves in a medical center and spending $22 million on something that we know is unrealistic in our current situation? It really baffles me, the priority of this administration when it comes to healthcare. But going back to your question, cost of living healthcare. If you go to the third factor, you're going to recognize that it may change depending on the location, the constituency. So for some areas, it becomes security and a major concern as to what is happening in regards to security. The fear of crime is worse than crime itself, right? People are dying, and in some cases, we still have unanswered questions. We see signs of things that make you worry what is happening. Let's look at Neil Franklin's case. I mean, these things are troubling when it comes to crime. And so in some areas, crime is a critical concern for people. In other areas, the third factor would be something like agriculture. Farmers who until now, 4 years, their farmlands, their farm roads have not been maintained in 4 years. Never once maintained in 4 years, right? So you would find in some areas it's agriculture. And in other areas, it can be almost anything that might be specific to that particular area. So if you look for the top two, I would say definitely cost of living and healthcare. Infrastructure in some areas. So for example, in the Grandlands area, you would find that that was a major and still is a major concern. And it's not just the infrastructure work that is happening, but it's the how in many instances it's being done. And these are things that concern people. And when we speak, I say to you, we are speaking on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. So when I spoke out about the young ladies who were sexually assaulted based on their stories, and I don't believe they would all be lying, based on their stories, were sexually assaulted by guests of the government, I was not saying something I had a dream about. I was speaking about young people, young women who called me, contacted me, and asked me to bring this to the attention of the public. And you know what one of them was thinking? That by doing that, the visitors would not have been allowed to leave without being asked to answer questions. But guess what? We sneaked them out immediately without even asking an explanation on behalf of these women. And, you know, as I mentioned this, let me make the point, because I've heard in the public domain that we are waiting. And, you know, in my opinion, the Commissioner of Police should resign on this particular matter. Issuing a statement saying that they are waiting on the victim to come forward. I don't believe this is a lack of knowledge of policing. I believe this is a case of being manipulated by politicians. That is my firm belief about this particular matter. Because the Commissioner of Police ought to know different. He's a trained police officer. So he knows that a tip-off is enough to investigate. You don't need a victim. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Special Victims Unit, a unit that was set up under the NNP administration within the Royal Grenada Police Force to give support to victims of such crime, you ask them, have you ever investigated a case where the victim did not come forward? Go ask them and hear what they would say to you.
All right, and Pierre, I have one question I want to ask, and we drew for a break. We take it because we've been strapped for time this morning, and of course we give our listeners and viewers opportunity to tap in. How do you feel about our current electoral system? And I hope I get that's shortened version of a response from you in this because we're strapped for time.
And you know, I can do that if I have to. So GT, I would say this: I'm extremely concerned. And only yesterday I had a meeting with the supervisor of the electoral office, supervisor of elections. Myself and Senator Dwight Osford had that meeting with his team included. And we were given the assurances that the issues we raised are valid. They are valid, and they are valid concerns, things that also concern them, and that they are going to continue to look into these matters, and that they are going to continue to work towards addressing the concerns of the opposition, because their role, which they explain that they do understand, is to be fair in their dealings and to protect the integrity of the office of the supervisor of elections. So I'll be short by saying we expressed our concerns, they heard our concerns, and they've given a commitment to look into and address concerns where it requires that.
All right, thank you. We due for a break. Let's take it. And when we come back, we give the opportunity to our listeners and viewers. We may have to wrap at a minimum 5 minutes after 10 o'clock this morning. Let's take that break. We're coming right back. Don't touch your dial.
Emancipation Weekend, Freedom Takes the Sea. The Media Workers Association of Grenada invites you aboard Unscripted, the Freedom Edition, Friday, July 31st. Step into an unforgettable night of music, vibes, culture, and connection aboard the ultimate summer cruise experience. Meet your favorite media personalities, party under the stars, and celebrate freedom the unscripted way aboard the Ecstasy. Boarding is at 7 p.m., sailing at 8 p.m. Dress code Freedom Chic, bold, style stylish, unapologetically you. Tickets are limited and going fast. Get your tickets online at GoToFest and at recognized ticket outlets. Unscripted, the Freedom Edition, because the best stories are the ones you never planned.
Grenada, get ready for this one as Megaforce Promotions presents Slip and Slide, the concert. Saturday, 20th June, National Cricket Stadium. Gates open 6 p.m. Showtime 8 p.m. And what's so special? Holland, international dancehall superstar Masika. Money nothing to make me a provider. Buy your deal and buy the designer. Masika. I saw she slip, I saw she slide on. What a girl can ride on. Alongside Javinci. Also performing live from Grenada, Tarpri Jr., Sakina and the Alpha One Band, Little Natty and Thunder, Buba 473, Sam Dan. Early bird tickets cost $100 until June 12. It's $120 after, or you pay more at the door. Slip and Slide, the concert, Saturday 20th June. No one should miss. Masika. I saw she slip, I saw she slide on. Masika.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers. Welcome back to, of course, our guest this morning, Honorable Emmalin Pierre, with us this morning in today's edition. Folks, we're going to give the opportunity to our listeners and viewers the opportunity to ask a question or two. I beg of you, because of time constraints, that you, of course, ask your questions, minimize on your comments. Just basically ask your questions so that we can accommodate as many callers as possible in the short time stream we have for the calling segment. Honorable Pierre, welcome back. Welcome back. We do have our first caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning and welcome.
Well, good morning, Mr. Telesford. Greetings and thank you for the opportunity, and say greetings to your guest, Miss Pierre. It's strange to me, I must indeed say, that much more frivolous and vain issues are given extended time, and when we have, quote-unquote, the lead of His Majesty's opposition, we truncate the time. I reckon that's some consideration. Let's go straight to the point. Ms. Pierre, many things you complain about there this morning are in effect happening. But it didn't start yesterday. And it's easy for the current administration to say, well, it didn't happen yesterday, we can do it too. And it goes on, Ms. Pierre, it goes on. My question, therefore, what do you propose to stop this? Second portion. I believe personally it's because of the foundation, the architectural, the constitutional architecture of this country that causes it. And take a look at this end here. Section 23 of this constitution says there shall be a parliament which shall consist of His Majesty the King, a Senate, and a House of Representatives. Section 57 says the executive authority is vested in His Majesty the King, and such authority may be exercised by the Governor General, ... This tells us crystal clear, according to the constitution order of this country, Grenada continues to be a colony of Great Britain. What do you propose to do, Ms. Pierre, and you and your party that you represent? Do you wish to continue to live under these circumstances, or you wish to propose to the people through referendum to make a choice into the future? Thank you for what is worth. Do have a nice day. Will you?
Thank you, caller. So we have a response to the caller?
Yeah, so I'll take the second part of the question first, and I like the way that he ended with that second option, because you see, critical matters like these really rest with the people. We are a party that believes in democracy. We believe that there are critical matters that the people must decide upon. So when we brought a referendum to this country, on 2 occasions, it was because we wanted the people to decide on critical matters. So we heard the people. We want Carriacou and Petit Martinique on the passport, for example, and we said, let the people decide. It's in the Constitution, but the people has a right to decide. So we brought it to the people. And the same people who said they wanted it voted against it. So we respect the people, right? So matters like these, we definitely will bring to the people and let the people decide what they would want to have. We would not want to force our views on such critical, important matters on the people. The first part of the question, And I want to make that point, that when I reference, for example, cost of living, I went back to show some of the relief measures that the NNP took in time of crisis. I went back to show what we would have done if we were in government at this time. And I want to make the point, and I'm happy that Citizen Rollo would have pointed to the future, because as I said, our manifesto policies are specifically being designed to respond to the current situation and the future, what we anticipate the future is going to be. So if we're speaking about cost of living, for example, we want to ensure that we are not just going to immediately bring relief to the people, because that's the first thing. People are in pain. You can't be talking about a project that's going to come on stream in the next 10 years. And this is what the government is doing with healthcare. People are dying now. You can't just be talking about what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 years. People want relief right now. And our approach will be twofold: bringing relief immediately. So what are those measures that we are going to take? Reduction in the cost of electricity, for example, looking at the basket of goods that are price control and expanding that, relooking the issue of VAT on goods and the implications, whether it be for government revenue or reduction in the cost for the people, examining all of those with a view to reducing the burden on the people. So that is what would be immediate relief. And then, of course, while you do that, simultaneously, you must be looking at a sustainable approach to address the issue. So, for example, when we speak about cost of living, we know that we have to do something about food and nutrition security. Because when you look at our import bill, you have to be convinced that we have to do far more and more aggressively in light of what the international trends and developments are showing us. So we cannot wait for every crisis to just respond with relief. We have to go beyond that to say that every time there's a crisis, there's a hike in the price of fuel. There's a hike in the price of food. So what do? Wait for the next one? No. We got to ensure that we empower our farmers. We have to ensure that we empower our citizens to become far more self-sufficient, to be able to respond in those situations. So as a government, we will be ensuring that there are programs that are going to provide the necessary support to bring us to that place where we are far less dependent on imported food. And we have to ensure that we take this to the next level. In other words, we cannot do what we have been doing and what we are doing now and expect different results. So our intervention would be far more aggressive as it relates to agriculture. We've achieved a lot in this area. We have done a lot, invested millions and millions, but we are going to be coming with a far more aggressive approach to take this to the next level, with the objective being food and nutrition security. And this is an example I'm going to give in the interest of time in response to what are we going to do. So farmers can be assured that you are going to be greater partners, and not the word that I use, because we cannot just expect our farmers to grow food and we see it as something that they do because they love doing it or they expect to make a few dollars from it. We have to see this as a partnership between government and farmers. And it has to be a partnership that is strong, far stronger than it has been or it is right now, because there's a goal that must be achieved, and that goal has to be achieved through that kind of partnership. If we are to use just another example, we speak about transportation, for example, not directly related to cost of living, but we speak about transportation. And I think we have been and we continue to operate the bus association one way, the government one way. And we are saying, while yes, there has been collaborations, there have been engagements in the past, we are working to take this to another level. We've met with the bus association, we've listened to them, we've heard how they view things currently and what they think the future can be. And we are coming up with a model that we are going to share in our manifesto that is going to seriously address the issue of transportation in this country for economic benefits, for social benefits. And so, to give you the assurance in closing, Citizen Rolo, we are working aggressively and we are going to ensure that these plans, when we present them, you are going to see how there would be a shift in terms of where we were, where we are, and where we are going as a nation. And I'm excited. The team is excited. The team is ready to work. And Grenadians, I want to give you the assurance that we are going to deliver for this country, and we are going to take this country to the next level.
We do have another caller. Caller via the direct line. Good morning. You're welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Go right ahead, please.
I'm making a contribution to Miss Emmalin Pierre. I want to find out about the Faith Company. I need to find out about the oil. And I need to find out about the young lady, which she gives a little bit of rice in the bag. That's what I want to find out.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. I don't know if it's necessary to respond if you want to.
Of course, I respond to anything. Let's start from the back, come forward. So the rice in the bag, I want to say this. Now, it's amazing. It's amazing that the caller would choose an issue like this to raise this morning, and I understand why. The young lady with the rice in the bag that she's referring to, probably over 10 years ago, this is a lady who lived not very far from me, quite often came to my home, and I supported in every single way that I could. I am not sure why she singled out the rice in the bag, but I say this, anytime, any way that I can assist her and her family, she knows that I will continue as I have been, right? The second matter was oil and gas. Now, we know that the NNP administration has invested significantly in this particular area because we believe that there is potential for oil and gas development in our country, and that our country can seriously benefit in that regard. Now, unfortunately, we know what happened after the last election. And the thing that's interesting about oil and gas is that what the opposition said back then, is that the NNP was lying. Now, the same opposition in government is now speaking oil and gas and saying, yes, exactly what we said. They have confirmed every word that we've said about oil and gas. And I'm really happy that they have been able to confirm that NNP was not lying about oil and gas and that we are committed. Progress made, 4 years, disappointed. And so what I'm going to say about this is that we are going to aggressively continue as it relates to this particular area because we believe our potential must be exploited for the benefit of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Now about Faith. Faith is an organization that exists in the parish of St. Andrew and based in my constituency. This is an organization that has been very supportive of community development. Hundreds of persons would have received CVQ certificates through this organization. Even in partnership with United States organization, I believe USAID would have been one of their main funders as it relates to skills training. So many persons have benefited directly as it relates to skills training. They operated from a community center in Telesford, where they would have been inspected by the National Training Agency, certified to train Grenadians for the same skills that we said is lacking. And guess what? They no longer have access to that facility because the keys were taken from them and the operation shut down as it relates to skills training. In addition to that, they have undertaken several community projects and initiatives to assist persons in communities, and the work that they've been doing in communities is well established. In addition to that, I want to add, when the Ministry of Education, and let me back up a bit, GT, I'm sure you would give me a few more minutes on this. When the Ministry of Education and the Grenada Union of Teachers got to a point where we could not get our students to go back to school to write their CXC exams, there were two options. Option one, that our students did not write exams that year. Option two was that we undertake massive construction to ensure that we had facilities for cleaning and sanitizing as a result of COVID-19. 2 weeks before school reopened, we had our final meeting with the union. 1 week, before school reopened.